The neon lights of the city flickered like dying stars as Emma stepped out of the cab, her heels clicking against the wet pavement. It was past midnight, and the streets were alive with the hum of nightlife. Laughter spilling out of bars, the distant thump of bass from a club, and the occasional shout of someone too drunk to care. Emma adjusted her leather jacket and checked her phone. The text from her friend, Jess, was still there. "Come to the Black Lantern. You have to see this place." Emma had been skeptical. She wasn't much of a night owl, but Jess had a way of convincing her to step out of her comfort zone. The Black Lantern was a new club, hidden in the labyrinth of the city's old district. Its entrance was unassuming, a black door with a flickering lantern above it, no sign, no bouncer. Just a heavy, ominous door that seemed to swallow the light around it. She pushed it open and was immediately hit by a wave of thick, smoky air. The club was dimly lit, with red and black lights casting long shadows across the room. The music was a low, pulsating rhythm that seemed to vibrate through her bones. The crowd was a mix of people, some dancing, others huddled in dark corners, their faces obscured by the dim light. Emma scanned the room for Jess, but didn't see her. "First time here?" A voice purred beside her. Emma turned to see a woman with sharp features and piercing green eyes. Her black dress clung to her like a second skin, and her smile was both inviting and unsettling. "Yeah," Emma replied, trying to sound casual. "I'm looking for my friend. She said she'd be here." The woman's smile widened. "Oh, everyone finds what they're looking for here, eventually." Before Emma could respond, the woman disappeared into the crowd, leaving behind a faint scent of something metallic. Emma shook off the strange encounter and made her way to the bar. The bartender, a tall man with hollow cheeks and sunken eyes, nodded at her. "What'll it be?" he asked, his voice gravelly. "Just a vodka soda," Emma said, glancing around the room again. Still no sign of Jess. The bartender slid her drink across the counter, and as she took a sip, she noticed something odd. The liquid was thicker than it should have been, almost syrupy, and it left a faint coppery taste on her tongue. She set the glass down, suddenly uneasy. "You shouldn't have come here," a voice whispered in her ear. Emma spun around, but no one was there. The crowd seemed to have grown denser, the music louder, the shadows darker. She pulled out her phone to call Jess, but the screen was blank, the battery dead. Panic began to rise in her chest. She pushed through the crowd, searching for the exit, but the layout of the club seemed to have changed. The walls were closer, the ceiling lower, and the air was suffocating. The faces of the people around her were distorted, their eyes hollow, their smiles too wide. "Jess!" Emma shouted, but her voice was swallowed by the music. She finally spotted a familiar face, Jess, standing near the edge of the dance floor. Relief flooded through her as she rushed over, but as she got closer, she realized something was wrong. Jess's eyes were blank, her skin pale, and her movements jerky, like a marionette on strings. "Jess, what's going on?" Emma grabbed her friend's arm, but it was cold, lifeless. Jess turned to her, her mouth stretching into a grotesque smile. "You shouldn't have come here," she echoed, her voice not her own. Emma stumbled back, her heart pounding. The crowd began to close in around her, their faces twisted into grotesque masks. The music shifted, becoming a cacophony of screams and whispers. She turned and ran, pushing through the sea of bodies, but no matter how far she went, the exit was always just out of reach. Finally, she saw it, the black door, the flickering lantern. She threw herself against it, but it wouldn't budge. Behind her, the crowd had stopped moving, their eyes fixed on her, their smiles widening impossibly. "You're one of us now," the woman in the black dress said, appearing beside her. Her green eyes glowed in the dim light. Emma screamed as hands grabbed her, pulling her back into the crowd. The last thing she saw was the flickering lantern above the door, its light extinguished. The next morning, a cab driver reported finding a woman's leather jacket and phone on the sidewalk near an abandoned building. The black lantern was gone, as if it had never existed. And Emma, she was never seen again. But if you walk through the old district late at night, You might hear a faint pulse of music, see a flicker of red light, and if you're not careful, you might find yourself drawn to a black door with a flickering lantern above it. Just remember, you shouldn't have come here. Bye, Michael.